Hi, my name is Alex Boucher and I'm a specialist occupational therapist working for West Hertfordshire Hospital's NHS Trust. I work within part of the inpatient therapy medical team. The Band 4 therapy technical instructor within our medical team is a valuable role. Their job is working as a dual therapist, combining the role of occupational therapy and physiotherapy. The Band 4 has to work independently, assessing non-complex patients and making treatment and discharge plans under the guidance of our qualified staff. I have found having the Band 4 extremely valuable. With the ever-growing demand of the acute hospital, they can discharge patients, enabling speedier discharges and improving flow within the hospital. Having this collaborative approach has released time for our qualified staff to complete specialised assessments for our more complex patients. Their typical day includes completing joint occupational therapy and physiotherapy initial assessments, obtaining collateral histories with relatives and carers, attending our daily multidisciplinary team board rounds, completing basic functional assessments, so for example kitchen assessments, wash and dress assessments, prescribing basic equipment and liaising with our equipment services, referring our patients to community services. There are also non-clinical elements to their positions, which include replenishing ward folders, equipment stock and sending referrals.
Hi, my name is Vicky. I'm the Band 7 physiotherapist on the inpatient medical team. We have a Band 4 joint OT and physiotechnical instructor who works on our team. The type of role that they do, they can work, so they take on the OT and the physio role in sort of an assistant capacity. They work quite independently. As a Band 7 on team, I have found having a Band 4 has been extremely valuable. They're a huge asset in taking on some of the caseload, which means that it can free up the seniors. We're able to take then more time with complex patients and in supporting other members of our team, and then supporting the Band 4, spending more time doing the role that we're doing. As the demands on the system are getting more and more, the caseload is getting busier and busier. It's been absolutely invaluable having a Band 4 who's able to take on some of those patients. It just eases the pressure and frees the seniors up to be able to do more of the supporting role of the team. If you're interviewing for one of these joint OT physio Band 4 roles, and the type of person who suits this role, definitely someone who has had some previous clinical experience and in a healthcare setting, not necessarily someone who's had either physio or OT assistant experience, although it's helpful to have worked in one or the other. But we did find that with the Band 4s we've been able to sort of upskill them into the other half of the role just with training, and most people find that's easy enough to take on. I find the main sort of personality traits that make a good Band 4 are someone who's able to be flexible and adaptable. It can be quite a demanding role and it can require sort of different things every day, so someone who doesn't mind taking on a challenge and who can be proactive and get the job done is the type of personality that suits this role quite well.
Hi, I'm Joanna and I work at the West Herts Trust as a Band 4 therapies assistant. I've worked for the Trust for about 18 months now. My role within the medical team is to assess, treat and discharge non-complex patients allocated to me by my seniors. So for instance, I won't see brain injury patients, but I will see patients with dementia or Parkinson's. I was attracted to this role because it just made sense. I previously worked as a PTA in another trust, and on many occasions I would mobilise a patient as part of their rehab. And the first thing the patient would say to me is, I need the toilet. So I thought, okay, it's still walking, I'll walk you to the toilet, and then end up observing a toilet transfer. Or just by getting out the patient out of bed, I was completing a bed transfer. I would then either hand over to the OT or OTA and they would say, if you've seen this patient and you've seen them do that, we don't need to see her today. Likewise, I would see someone from OT mobilising a patient to the kitchen. I would watch them mobilise and I've seen them walking. No need to see them that day. Especially if the patient was frail, that's all they might have been able to manage for that day. So when this Band 4 role came up that combined OT and PT tasks, I thought it's just an extension of what I'm already doing. It just makes so much more sense to combine the two. This job does push me though. In terms of my knowledge, I'm always learning every day, applying clinical reasoning that will affect the treatment and the plan that I write for this patient. All the time I'm looking at their previous medical history, I'm looking at their limitations, I'm testing their strength, I'm testing their range of movement, their sensation, their coordination, and the plans are tailored for that patient. I have 2 managers, 2 band 7s, one from physiotherapy and the other from occupational therapy. I'm very well supported by my team. The physios and OTs all know the boundaries of the band 4 role, and if something turns out to be more complex than previously thought, then I simply hand the patient back over to them. When I applied for this role, I had about 8 years of NHS clinical experience from working on various wards, A&E and ambulatory care, usually quite fast-paced environments, and this is very much like the medical wards. There can be a quick turnover of staff. But when I started this job, the Trust sent me on a 2-day course about OT equipment, how to fit it, how to measure it. And that was invaluable. That filled in gaps for me about how this equipment worked and helped people in their ADLs. Some initial assessments can take about an hour, and the patient may be discharged from OT and PT then if they're at a suitable baseline to be discharged at the end of the assessment. Other patients may move wards, so the plan I've written for them goes with them, and I'll hand over to the therapist on that ward. I can refer to external services such as community OT PT or social services if a package of care is identified. I can issue both PT and OT equipment.
My name's Jenny, I'm the therapy manager. I manage both the physios and the OTs. It's been really useful for us having the band 4 posts because they can work across teams. So in terms of budget, this means that we can take pots of money from the OT budget and the physio budget, mix them together to create posts that work for both sides. It also means, just from the team's perspective, we've got flexibility between the teams. So if the OTs are really stretched on one day, then that post holder can work more with that team, or if the physios are stretched, they work more with that team. From the patient's point of view, it just means they're seeing the one person, it's more holistic care, it works better for them, and it means our team's more integrated, which is what we're aiming for in this service.